Sometimes hope is all you got, and we're lucky that we at least have hope today because if you go back 3 months ago, September 11th or September 12th, it didn't feel like we had anything to be hopeful about. So the fact that we can at least look forward to the future, feel good about the opportunity in front of us and the opportunity for Trev and this next coaching staff, it just makes me have a little bit more happiness in my heart, I guess I can say. What's happening, chat? I haven't talked to you guys in the last, I think, 24 hours or so, and it felt like a long time away from you. I did get into the comments, and wow, I made a video yesterday. If you haven't checked it out, which I'm sure you have, this is my #1 video in quite some time. Normally, my videos are getting, as of recent, 5,000 views, max 11,000 views. This one's already at, I think, 11,000, and it hasn't even been 24 hours. So you've probably watched the video, is my point. And I'll respond to some comments. It's been choppy, you know. Some people feel positive about the direction we're going. Some people are excited about what Trev did. Some people are upset, they're annoyed. I got a phone call today from another guy who makes Nebraska content online. He's small. I'm not sure if you guys have seen his videos, but the point is, he was really big on Mickey Joseph. He was big on Deion Sanders and some other coaches, and he's extremely disappointed by this hire. And I understood his concerns, and I understand everyone's concerns who's coming at it from that angle. But none of us know what the good answer is. There was not really a good option, in my opinion. You know, I want to start this off by talking about what happened over at Wisconsin, because that's where people want to measure this. Nebraska and Wisconsin are very similar programs. When I say similar programs, I mean similar in terms of they play in the same conference against the same competition. I wouldn't call them equal jobs. I would say Nebraska is a little bit above them, but they're pretty close to equal, especially given Wisconsin's recent win history. They're a great football program, and I'm sure they're going to turn things around fast. But the point is, I think it's a good way to measure our success. You measure it against one of your biggest rivals. And if Iowa is the #1 rival, you got to say Wisconsin's the #2 as of right now. So today, it was a big deal that we ended up watching Luke Fickell get taken to our rival. And Luke Fickell's a fantastic head coach. Luke Fickell's been a good head coach for the last few years over at Cincinnati. And here's a little graphic. Let's pull it up. He was hired for what seems like might have been less money than what we paid for Matt Rhule. I don't know what to say about that. Again, it's not my money. It's not your money. It's 100% this new media rights deal. That's going to fund it, and maybe some booster money or whatever. But it's not our money, so who cares? The only problem with it is that we went so big on Rhule. When you watch someone like Wisconsin land Luke for a much lower number, presumably, did Trev go too all in? Did he say, you know, we're going to go with this coach who I feel like is the right choice, and I'm going to give him everything? I understand, and I made a case for why he should be Trev's #1 choice and why he fits what Trev is trying to build. But that's a lot of money. That number, the problem with the number is it's a commitment number. It's a number you can't get out of. The buyout on that is ridiculous. So we will see at least 4 or 5 years of Matt Rhule, even if everything goes to shit. So think of it that way. Anyway, the reason I like this hire for Wisconsin, because I want to talk about the positive here really quick, it makes the Big Ten better. It makes our opponent better. And if you're Nebraska, you want to compete with the highest level of competition every year. How much fulfillment did you get? And this is for everyone who's a Nebraska fan in this chat, which I think about 430 of you are. How much fulfillment wait, let me get center on the camera. How much fulfillment did you get when Nebraska beat North Dakota this year? Honestly, did you go outside and jump for joy? Did you watch the game all the way through and feel good about the victory? Or did you feel like, I'm just waiting for next week? Because I personally felt like, it feels good to know we got a win that maybe counts towards bowl eligibility. But outside of that, this was extremely boring and it was uneventful. I'd rather see them play tougher competition. This type of hire is going to boost the level of competition in our opponents. It's going to boost the level of competition in the Big Ten. And that SEC bias is eventually going to shift a little bit. It won't become biased towards the Big Ten, I don't think. But I think the national media will start to recognize the Big Ten as a power conference. Some of the best coaches in college football are in this conference. Ryan Day, Jim Harbaugh, Jeff Brom, Luke Fickell, Matt Rhule, Kirk Ferentz is okay. Brett Bielema has been awesome. James Franklin. You have some really big names in this conference now. And because of that, it just raises the stock for everybody. It raises the stock for us. It makes it more fun, more watchable. So that's my thought on the Luke Fickell hire. And then Mitch Sherman had some of his own thoughts, and I wanted to engage with those for a second. He said, so it seems that yes, Nebraska could have waited a few days after offering Matt Rhule in the middle of last week and had a shot at Luke Fickell. I say the Huskers got the better coach for their situation. Let's talk about that. Luke Fickell was fielding calls for another job. Cincinnati, they're going to the Big 12. They're not competing in a conference now that's going to be a dominant super conference. You've only got a few super conferences. They're going to rise to the top, and the Big 12 is not going to be one of them. So Luke Fickell knew it was his time to get out. He had an okay year this year. I think 9 wins, 9-3, something like that. But he lost a little bit of stock after his playoff year last year and after the rise the year before that. So the point is, he knew it was time to move on. I think he would have taken the Nebraska job. And a lot of people are saying, which I'm conflicted, I will be honest. A lot of people are saying Luke Fickell was the better coach. Luke Fickell was the coach to go after. And Trev Alberts said, no, I don't want Luke Fickell because we know he could have gone after him. I have to assume the search firm reached out to Fickell. I have to assume that because they reached out to a lot of coaches. And my opinion is that when Trev Alberts initially went and did his Sports Nightly press conference, I think 2 to 3 weeks back, Trev said, I am surprised that so many coaches still have the level of interest in this job because obviously Nebraska's been down bad for quite some time. And to come to Nebraska right now means that you're willing to take on a rebuild that could take at least 3 years when expectations in college football in 2023, 2022 are to win now. So I do think that he probably reached out to Fickell and Fickell was engaging. So the fact that he didn't go with Fickell and he went with Matt Rhule, it really has some people peeved. And I understand. I personally, after all my research, I choose the Rhule route. And this isn't just me trying to be an optimistic fan again. This is me legitimately believing that this was a better choice. If you watched my coaching video yesterday about Matt Rhule and him being a CEO head coach and him being the right hire for Nebraska, I believe in my heart that he is the right hire for what Trev wants to build. Now, if I was the athletic director at Nebraska, my vision for what I want to build at Nebraska might be slightly different. And Matt Rhule might not be the right hire for me or for you or for any other athletic director. But for Trev Alberts, for what this administration wants to build, and when we're talking about rebuilding a football program from the ground up, you need all these guys on the same page. This is one team. They have to work united. They have to all be on the same path together, right? Matt Rhule, Trev Alberts just seem like the match made in heaven. So I really hope it works out for him. Getting back to this. Luke Fickell, the red flag here, in my opinion, he has the similar resume that Scott Frost did coming out of Ohio State and Cincinnati. Luke Fickell was at Ohio State before Cincinnati. He got the interim head coach tag for one season. I think he went 6-6. Things did not work out that year, which Nebraska also beat them that year, which is fine. That doesn't mean much because like Mickey Joseph only winning 3 games or whatever it was this year, I'm not going to hold that against him. He's just a Band-Aid for the time being until we could find our coach. Now, Luke Fickell ended up being the defensive coordinator on a national champion Ohio State team, similar to Scott Frost being the offensive coordinator on a national championship Oregon team. They both left to American Conference schools. Interestingly enough, they both had serious success there. Scott Frost got his team to undefeated, and Luke Fickell took his team to the playoff. If it didn't work out with Luke Fickell at Nebraska, a lot of people, a lot of you, and myself as well, we would have pointed and we would have said, what the hell were you doing? Sure, Luke Fickell was the flashy name. Keep in mind that term flashy because Trev specifically said, I'm not looking for the flashy hire. I'm looking for the right hire. Luke was the flashy name. And sure, it wins the press conference. It would have won with me. I'll be honest with you. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to lie to any of you because I'll always be honest and open. If Trev Alberts came out and said Luke Fickell and the Matt Rhule talk all faded out, I would have been a little bit more excited about the hire. I'll be honest, and I'm sure you would have been too. You don't have to lie because recency bias. Why wouldn't you have recency bias? You're only as good as your last week, right? His last week wasn't too good. Talking about Luke Fickell. Luke Fickell's last week was a little bit rough. But The weeks before that were completely fine, and the year before that was completely fine. So I'm going to have to say, as of right now, my opinion is Rhule is the better coach for what Trev is trying to build. Rhule is probably the better fit for what Nebraska needs right now. I would love to see what Luke Fickell could do at Nebraska, of course. It'd be interesting. It'd be a great experiment. But we'll basically get to see that at Wisconsin. So congrats, Wisconsin. It's better for the conference. And let's see what else Mitch Sherman had to say about this. For a coach you're paying that kind of money, waiting is a bad idea. This is in regards to paying $9 million a year for Matt Rhule. Rhule could have jumped at another unexpected opening, and that would be one of your issues, right? There are a lot of job openings right now, and coaches are trying to fill into those roles. You don't know what's going to happen over these next few days, and potentially after the bowl championships, conference championships. Jobs could open up, and Rhule could say, you know what? I'm going somewhere else. And Rhule is, whether you like it or not, he's one of the best options on the market right now. When I say one of the best options, he's one of the top 10 coaches on the market right now. When I say on the market, that doesn't include Dabo Swinney, doesn't include Lincoln Riley, or anyone who's obviously not going to leave their program unless there was some insane turn of events similar to what we saw last year with Brian Kelly and Lincoln Riley. Mitch says Trev had to lock up his guy at the first opportunity. He made the first big hire of what was immediately turned into a coaching change season of surprising announcements. Once the dominoes start to fall, Nebraska could have lost out on all its top targets, which is absolutely true. And then we could have ended up in a bidding war, which would have been a big problem. Nebraska would have ended up paying $10, $11 million for a coach, which that's even worse. Rhule has proven to be adaptable at many college jobs. This is important right here. This is something I've learned in my research of him. He's also less likely to leave. It's very true. This is in regards to Fickell. If Ryan Day gets tired of losing to Michigan and takes a crack at the NFL, which I would not be surprised if that happened as soon as next season, honestly, then Fickell would be gone at the first call to return to Ohio State. You'd have Fickell for 1 year, and then he'd bounce out. How demoralizing would that be? Point is, it makes sense. I understand the hire. I'm not upset about the hire. And a lot of you, like me, are going to kind of be in wait-and-see mode. What's interesting about the Wisconsin situation, as well as the Nebraska situation, is Wisconsin players were a little bit hurt over the Luke Fickell thing. They were a little bit hurt, not because Luke Fickell's coming, but because Jim Leonhard didn't get the job. You saw Braylon Allen, the star running back over there at Wisconsin, who has, I think, 1 more year left before he's going to go pro. Braylon Allen said, I think 2 weeks ago, as long as Coach Leonhard's here, I will be here. Whew. And if he isn't there, the rumors were that Braylon Allen could bolt for a place like Michigan. I mean, he can go and win, right? He can go and win at the highest level. Now, do I think he should stay at Wisconsin? Probably. I think Luke Fickell's gonna 100% build a strong team pretty quickly over there because Nebraska is a total rebuild. Wisconsin just needs to pick up the pieces, and I think they can win 8 games next season, almost guaranteed. Probably closer to 9. The ceiling is very high for them. It's just going to be interesting to see how they work with Luke Fickell and his staff. But anyway, it's interesting for Nebraska and for Wisconsin because you've got 2 schools who players were totally invested in those interim head coaches, and those interim head coaches are no longer going to be there, at least in that role. Both of them could potentially be on the staff, but who knows? My understanding is Jim Leonhard probably won't be at Wisconsin. There's a higher chance that Mickey Joseph returns to Nebraska than Jim Leonhard returning to Wisconsin. So we'll have to see. There's a lot of question marks still. And yeah, it's going to be an exciting week. It's going to be an exciting month. There's a lot to get into. I mean, the new staff is going to be awesome to see. The transfer portal. Like I said in the beginning of this video, there's a lot of hope, and it'll be exciting to see where things go. Crypto Badger's back. Thank you for the 20. After more research, I trust the judgment. It's time to shut up and go do work. I hope Mickey stays on staff. You know, that's kind of been my feeling. Crypto Badger and I get along. You know, he's my executive producer. We get along and we have a lot of the same ideas. And the reason is because he and I both have common sense. We both have an idea about what is right, but if things don't work out the way that we think they should work out, we're going to say, hey, let's make the best of this situation. Let's try and support them and make sure that this coaching staff change and transition is as smooth as possible from at least the fans' perspective. And don't get myself worked up. He's not going to get himself worked up. Matt Rhule could very well come in here and win 10 games next year. He absolutely, keyword, could. Will he? I'm not saying that. But he could do a lot of positive here. He's a very good football coach, whether you want to admit it or not. All the excuses about, he hasn't beaten top 25 teams, blah, blah. Listen, let's address the top 25 teams real quick. And I'm going to get to all the super chats. I've seen them in the chat, and I'm not going to miss them. I promise you, I'll get to the other comments as well. Nebraska went after a coach who might not have been your number one. He for sure wasn't my number one. And when you look at who my number one would have been, it would have been one of the unattainables. And when I say unattainable, they're obviously attainable. Everybody's got a price or a situation they're willing to walk into. I've said it 100 times. I'm going to say it again. Lincoln Riley left blue blood Oklahoma for USC. Brian Kelly left blue blood Notre Dame for LSU. I mean, how much more obvious does it get that coaches are willing to leave for the right opportunities and the right situations? Nebraska is unfortunately one of these jobs where you have to commit to a rebuild. You have to commit to digging deep and saying, look, my ego is going to be crushed because even though I'm one of the best coaches in the country, one of the top 10, top 12, whatever it is, I know for a fact it's going to take me some time to get this team back on track, unfortunately. There is no simple fix. There is no easy answer. I wish there was. Okay, let me clarify. I think there actually is a simple fix and an easy answer. I just don't know that we can pull it off in this short period of time. You get a new head coach in. Can he find enough offensive and defensive linemen? Can he flip the program immediately? I mean, it just feels like it's going to be tough at Nebraska. At USC, it was doable. USC's on pace to make the playoff in 1 year after winning 4 games last year. 4 or 5, whatever that was. Regardless, anything's possible. It's all on the table. My point about the top 25 wins, if you look at the coaches who consistently win top 25 games, and there aren't very many of them because even coaches like Mark Stoops have 500 records against top 25 teams. Matt Rhule is up in competition with coaches like Ryan Day, Jim Harbaugh, Lincoln Riley, Dabo Swinney, Nick Saban, Brian Kelly. Those are all coaches who consistently beat top 25 teams. And there's a reason that those coaches all make $10+ million a year. There's a reason they all have crazy guarantees. And there's a reason they're Hall of Fame level coaches, right? Nebraska's not in a position to land a Hall of Fame level coach. So we're going to take a guy who's in the middle of his career. He's not even 50 yet. He's still figuring out how to be an elite head coach. And because of all of the experience he has coming in here, I'm pretty confident that he has at least an 8-win season at Nebraska in him in the next 3 years. I'm very confident in that. So that's my thoughts there. It's time to shut up and do the work like Crypto Badger says, and hopefully we keep Mickey Joseph. Yes, sir. Sorry, guys. I know I'm getting rolling and not answering all the chats, but we're going to get to them all. I promise you. We got 717 people in here right now. Thank you for being a part of the show. If you hit the like button, it really helps support because more people can find this video. So thanks for hitting the like button in advance. Crypto Badger, I liked the CEO video, but I don't want a CEO. I want a sergeant major. The CEO is the athletic director. I understand that, and I agree with you. And the beauty of Matt Rhule, I believe, is he is both. He's the CEO and he's the command sergeant major. He will get on your ass. He is a stickler about the little things, and I think that's one thing that made me attracted to Matt Rhule. One thing I saw in his speaking engagements, he has multiple online, and I've encouraged people to watch them. He's the son of a pastor, I think. He grew up in the church. He grew up around guys who were obviously preachers, and he can preach, let me tell you. But he has it about some different things. He preaches about football. He preaches about being a leader. He preaches about being a good coach, a mentor. This guy has said some great things on camera, and because it's all out there for you to watch and it's free, I would definitely encourage it. It'll give you a better idea of what we're getting, of what the kids are going to be up with over these next few months. He is a drill sergeant. He is going to be tight and he is going to be on them. His expectations are through the roof. He is, I'm telling you, a stickler for the details. JD Fickell from On3, he's one of the bigger college football YouTubers, national show. He came on and did an interview with me before the season to talk about this year and what his expectations were with Scott Frost, Casey Thompson, and some of these other things. Anyway, JD went to Baylor and he was there for, I think, a semester. He played football there under Matt Rhule. I remember talking to JD a while ago, and JD was very positive about Matt Rhule before he was even in consideration for the Nebraska job. I think this is when he was still at the Panthers, is my understanding. He said that he was psycho about doing everything the right way. He even mentioned in his video yesterday, I think it was yesterday, he said Matt Rhule is a great fit for Nebraska because he does he does everything in a disciplined fashion, down to what socks you're wearing. You have to make sure you have the right color, the right size, whatever it is, your uniform, you're in line. That is sergeant or command sergeant major mentality, okay? I think the CEO thing is just as important as being the sergeant major, but That's my opinion, obviously. I don't know what's more important. But you're right on track, Crypto Badger. We got to make sure that this head coach is a disciplinarian and is going to be on top of these players to make sure they do things the right way, because it's easy to be an 18, 19, 20-year-old kid and not be as focused as you need to be. If you're playing for Matt Rhule, this is out of his mouth. If you're playing for Matt Rhule, you're playing to go to the NFL. You're playing to be the best. You're playing to win football games. He has entire plans and PowerPoints he's posted up when he does his speaking engagements with every meticulous detail that he expects from his team in practice, in games, and everything else that goes into being part of a team for 365 days a year. There's a lot to be excited about with Matt Rhule, honestly. Things I never saw Scott Frost do. Things I don't think Scott Frost was able to do. Scott Frost, I said this all in my video. If you watched the If you watched the Matt Rhule video yesterday, I released it at 3 in the morning. I just responded to a bunch of comments because I put a picture up of Becton. I put a picture up of Becton when I was talking about Mickey Joseph. It was 3:30 in the morning or something when I was editing that video, so Mickey will forgive me. They're both good-looking dudes. Point is, when I made that video, I had talked about this CEO role and everything else, and I think it's important for you guys to watch that video. I go into detail about all of these things we're talking about right now, and I just want to make sure if you didn't see it, you do, because I think it's an important video to watch. I did a lot of research before I posted that up. I've got more super chats, guys. I'm getting to them. I promise you. I promise you. Don't get me started. Thank you for the 5. How does Trev manage to keep Mickey on staff? Doesn't the head coach get to pick his whole staff? He does. So the way you get to keep Mickey, in my opinion, man, it starts with Matt Rhule, okay? Matt Rhule has to say, I want Mickey Joseph. He has to say there's a place on this staff for this guy. My understanding is Tom Osborne and Trev Alberts have both vouched for Mickey. Obviously, the fans have vouched for Mickey. And Matt Rhule has acknowledged Mickey. I'm not sure he has acknowledged him as someone he would want to keep part of the staff, or to what degree, but he has acknowledged that there were conversations and his name was mentioned to him. Matt Rhule's going to have to make the decision. Do I want to keep this guy? Do I not? And if he doesn't, if he tells Trev, hey, you hired me for $72 million. We're doing things my way. So, Mickey Joseph, thank you for your services, but I'm taking over. Trev is going to say, this is a full commitment, and I'm fully bought into Matt Rhule. Whatever Matt says goes. This is his football team. This is his football staff. They are accountable to him, not me. So if they're accountable to him, I want to make sure he picks the guys he wants. Because like I said, this guy is a drill sergeant, just like Crypto Badger wants. He's going to make sure people do things the way he wants. Just a thought. I personally, my gut feeling says Mickey Joseph stays. I think they're going to give him a lot of money. I think they're going to give him $1 million+ a year. He's going to be one of the highest paid position coaches in the country. He'll be the associate head coach potentially. I saw Nebraska's already got a recruiting coordinator hired. We'll talk about that in a minute. But I do have a good feeling Mickey Joseph will be here next year. If he isn't, this program is bigger than one person. That's all I can say. This program is bigger than one player. It's bigger than one coach. And it would be painful to lose him. I'd be sad to lose him. I know thousands of Husker fans would be. Social media would be on fire. But it is what it is. This is what we signed up for. We signed up to follow and watch Trev Alberts' Nebraska football program. This is his program right now. He's making the decisions. Again, yesterday in my video, I stated so clearly, Trev didn't make the hire that Nebraska wants. The guys who you and I talked about wanting, the guys who all the national media talked about, everybody talked about, he didn't make that hire. He chose what Nebraska needs. And when I said that, I was implying what Nebraska needs to succeed to Trev Alberts' expectations, to look the way Trev Alberts wants it to look. Trev Alberts is paid, I don't know, $1 million a year or something to make sure he builds sports programs at Nebraska. And if they're going to build, he said, I'm going to do it the way I want it to build, or be built, sorry. That's my thought there. We'll see what happens. I'm excited. I'm hopeful. I hope Mickey's here. On Monday when that press conference hits, I hope Matt Rhule walks out, arm around Mickey. He's like, yeah, we got him. That's what I hope. Now, if he doesn't, like I said, heartbroken a little bit, but it is what it is. Program's bigger than one man. And Mickey knows that. Mickey's a smart guy. And guess what? Mickey's going to be just fine. That dude's going to go and make plenty of money somewhere else. Worst case, the guy's a winner. He's been appreciative of his time here, but he's not a dummy. He understands the business, just like you and I do, just like Rhule and Trev do. It is what it is. Tater, thank you for the $5. Like I said, I'm not happy, sad, or anything else. I'm just not excited for this hire. Maybe that'll change in the coming days with pressers coming. I think if people are on the fence, if people are borderline, I would encourage them to watch the pressers. I'd encourage them to listen to what Matt Rhule has to say about his coaching philosophy. I'd encourage them to learn more about the man. You know, there's something I've realized in life. You get behind people who have a vision, people who have direction, people who know what they're doing, right? You get behind people who are winners in life. And if you can follow a winner, typically you're going to go somewhere positive. Just that's typically, not always. Some guys fall off the path and things go left, like I think Scott Frost did at Nebraska a little bit, right? But generally you follow a winner. Outside of just football, I believe Matt Rhule is a winner. I believe he does everything in his life the right way. I believe okay, let me pause. Rumors had it that Scott Frost had a mess on his hands outside of football life, right? In his personal life, it was a mess. Supposedly all these things that don't matter. If all of that is true, then how could you ever expect him to be a good football coach? You can't be a good football coach, good at your job, good at anything, if you don't have your personal life together. Imagine if you came on my stream every day and my bed's not made, I'm sloppy, my teeth aren't brushed. Just imagine, you wouldn't watch me. You got to do the basics. Okay, Matt Rhule does the basics. Matt Rhule, in my opinion, has his life so dialed in and his plan so dialed in that he didn't just get to where he is by falling into it by luck. He was a elite level or elite coach, so much so that he ended up in the NFL with a, I don't know, $34 million contract or $70 million contract or something. And he's been so good that he was able to come back to college and get the same contract. And the only reason he was able to get that same contract is because other schools around the country, not just Trev Alberts, not just Nebraska, wanted him. The reason that Trev Alberts had to pay this much money, $72 million over the course of 8 years, isn't because he just wanted to throw away cash. It's not because he said, you know what, Matt Rhule, I'm rolling the dice. I feel lucky, bam. It's not what happened. What happened was Auburn came to the table, and other schools came to the table, and other ones were on the outside looking in and said, hey, Matt Rhule's a hot name. Matt Rhule just came off Baylor. Screw his NFL experience. We don't care about that. Obviously, any of that's positive just because it gave him more insight. But all of that talk, all of that chatter made it so that Scott Frost made it so that Trev Alberts had to come to the table with a massive offer. And the reason is because that guy's a winner in life. He's been a winner at everything he does. And these schools, these teams, these elite professionals who make these decisions understand that about this football coach. They believe that you latch onto him now and he's taking you to the promised land. Because nothing is guaranteed in this coaching world. As we've learned, nothing. Coaches like Jimbo Fisher have been hired, and they did not pan out to the level that Texas A&M thought. That dude got paid how much? Was it $75 million plus another 20 extension? I think that's $95 million to win what? 8, 9 games a year? This year, not even make a bowl game in year 5? Excuse me? Nothing is guaranteed in coaching. So you better latch on to the best one or the one who gives you the best chance to succeed. That's my thoughts there. That was a lot. I'm sorry about that. Judy, thank you for the $2. Just so you guys know, Judy's been commenting on the videos the last few days. Judy has been a fan, she said, for 73 years. Not sure where Judy lives, but she's a member of the channel and she has super chatted me $2. So I'm extremely appreciative because she's an OG to the Husker community, long before I've been a Nebraska fan. So thank you, Judy. Thank you for being here. Don't get me started with the 5. Thank you, brother. I'm excited for all the potential wordplay. We rule the West. Follow the rules. You can't break the rules. Stuff like that. You know, it is going to be funny to see all that shit pop up on shirts. What's also going to be interesting is he has some sayings I've heard. He's kind of like a little PJ Fleck. He's not as gimmicky as PJ Fleck, but he does have that energy. He has that hype culture, and he knows how to get players to buy in. I mean, I've got no problem with PJ Fleck. I don't like the row the boat, but I like the gimmicks that get the team to buy in, the culture builders, I would say. I had those with my friends growing up, right? And even on my football teams my whole life, it felt like you always had like an acronym or something, and it got you pumped up because it made you feel like you were bought into something like Corn Crazed. The Corn Crazed Army, for example. It's the same kind of concept. We feel like we're a part of the same team. We feel like we're a united community, a united front. That's what this channel has become. Matt Rhule's going to do the same thing. He's going to have his own wordplay in that locker room. So we'll see tomorrow in the presser what he comes up with. It's not going to be row the boat or anything as cringe as row the boat, fortunately, but it is going to be something. So I'm excited for that wordplay as well. But thank you for the 5. Husker Nation, thank you for the 5. I'm concerned about Rhule's record against the top 25 teams. It's bad. We're just eating the same oatmeal without adding some flavor. Listen, I understand. I get it. And I wish that he won more top 25 games. He didn't have that many top 25 teams he went up against when his teams were at their best. That's just honest. When his team at Baylor won, how many? 10 games or 11 games? They only played 3 top 25 teams. They played OU twice, led by Lincoln. They played OU twice, led by Lincoln Riley, and they played Georgia, led by Kirby Smart. What do you expect, man? It's going to be tough to win those games. So I understand. None of these hires had the perfect resume. I don't think we're eating the same oatmeal, though. I think he's a better hire than that. But who knows? We'll see. Thank you for the $5, Crystal. Is it possible that MJ was written into the Rhule contract? I don't think so. Probably not written into the contract. That wouldn't make very much sense. I really hope that MJ is pushed, though. Like, I think it was really important that in the hire conversations that Trev would have gone and vouched for him from the beginning. And I'm sure he did, because you want to plant that seed that, hey, this is a guy who Husker Nation loves, who the players love, and who's done more than enough to deserve a spot on this staff. So I would hope. We'll see. I'm not sure. Who knows? The Badger, thank you for the 20. It's all about the 7 Ps. Proper prior planning prevents piss poor performance. Sounds like a freaking hitter. Sounds like it's straight out of Matt Rhule's book. I'm not sure if he actually said that, but yeah, proper prior planning prevents piss poor performance. That's a fact. If you're ready to go, you're not going to fail. Thank you for the 20, Badger. I appreciate it. And you're right. That's a great 7 Ps. I'm going to save that one for later. Dom, thanks for being here. And thank you for being a member, as always. Dom and I talk on Instagram all the time. He's a great dude. He's a recent Nebraska fan, and he just went to his first Nebraska game this year, so we love having him as part of our community. Didn't Matt Rhule turn down the initial offer? My understanding is Matt Rhule wasn't interested in that offer because that offer didn't line up with what he was looking for. And I'm not sure if that was him or his agents. Probably wasn't enough money or I don't know what it was, but yeah, it sounds like the first offer that came in wasn't enough, and Trev had to go back to the table, and that's why we had that pause. We had that first conversation, I think it was a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, where we said, oh, Matt Rhule could be announced in 3 days, and then it wasn't announced. Why? They had to rewrite the offer and coax him into this deal. Very interesting. Judy, thank you for another $2 super chat. I can't open it up because I can't see your message. Unfortunately, I don't know why it's blocking me. But Judy, I did see it. So if you comment something else, I'll find it in here and I'll respond to it 100%. Okay, guys, I'm getting to the chat. Let's see what people got to say. And really quick, tomorrow, I wanted to give you guys a note. You obviously know this because all of us are fully committed to this Rhule build right now and this rollout. So tomorrow at 1:30 p.m. Central Time, the Matt Rhule press conference will be in the Hawk Center, and then I think they're going to have some fans in the stadium to watch it on the big screen or something. I don't know. Point is, myself, I assume a bunch of you will be watching at 1:30 tomorrow to see what Matt Rhule has to say. We're going to get some insight. We're going to get some insight into the coaching staff. We're going to get some insight into what his plan is, and it'll give us a better feel for who he is as a person. So I encourage you to watch that presser. If you can't watch it, then watch it later. I'm going to either do a live stream immediately after, or I'll do a regular video that night, maybe both. I'll figure it out. There's plenty of content coming is my point. So these are all things we got to talk about. I've seen a chat pop up a few different times, so I'm going to address that now. There was a coach that fans have been excited about named Glenn Schumann. He is the co-DC and the linebackers coach at Georgia. He is, I think, tied to Rhule, but I don't remember how, or knows someone who works with Rhule, something. There's reason to believe that he might be a coach that Nebraska pursues as a DC. So he was an Alabama GA. Then he was Alabama's director of player development. Then in 2016, he was the inside linebackers coach at Georgia. This is all under Kirby Smart. And from 2019 till now, he's been the co-DC and inside linebackers coach. That would be a massive hire at DC. It'd be huge. He's been coaching under Kirby Smart. Georgia has a fantastic defense. The other co-DC is Will Muschamp. So it'd be interesting to see how that plays out. The DC that Matt Rhule's had in his career, like the majority, is Phil Snow, I think is his name. He's been decent, and I would assume that would be the direction he would look, but he's a 66-year-old guy, so maybe he's coming to the end and doesn't want to be a DC anymore or doesn't want to be part of a rebuild. I don't know. Would be interesting, though, to watch and see who ends up as DC. And then I did see these names pop up. We had 2 Panthers coaches leaving to join Matt Rhule's Nebraska staff effective immediately, which means they're on a plane and in Nebraska tomorrow. You've got the assistant defensive line coach, Terrence Knighton, and the assistant strength coach, Corey Campbell. So there could be other guys coming from the Panthers, but these are the 2 that we know for sure. I looked up a picture of this guy, Corey Campbell. That's him. He's a monster. So he looks the part. I'm not sure if he'll be the main strength and conditioning coach, what his role will be, if he's going to be a co-strength and conditioning coach or an assistant strength and conditioning coach, but he was at Baylor before. He's obviously been in the NFL, so he has some experience, and hopefully that means some positive things. The Duval deal did not work out, unfortunately. There was just something that wasn't right, something that we thought should be fixed because the Mike Riley strength and conditioning program was off. There was something not right about it. But yeah, I'm hopeful now that we know we're getting a new strength and conditioning program in here, hopefully. So we'll see. Getting back to chat, guys. Oh, another one I forgot. Another hire that was confirmed is Evan Cooper. So they're bringing Evan Cooper, who's a longtime recruiting coordinator and defensive backs coach. He was the defensive backs coach for the Panthers. He was a DB's coach for the, I think for Temple and for Baylor. And the recruiting coordinator title. I don't know what his rule or what his hire is going to be at Nebraska, but he's got the recruiting coordinator title. Sorry guys, I gotta slow down. He's got the recruiting coordinator title from Baylor. So does he keep that title, or does Matt Rhule assign Mickey Joseph as recruiting coordinator and this guy as the DB's coach? I have no idea. But because he's been on the staff for such a long time, he clearly has faith in this guy. And I believe Evan Cooper was fired earlier on this season. So it'll be interesting to see. We don't know much about him, but we'll have to do some more research. I'm going to do a lot of research on all these coaches as the names keep coming out, and from there, I'll be posting up videos, giving you as much detail as I can on their background. Getting back to chat. Mr. Dylan Leslie, thank you for the 5. Connor, can you rank the Big Ten head coaches with the addition of Rhule and Fickell? I have Rhule around 4 or 5. Off the top of my head, it'll be tough. You got Jim Harbaugh number 1, Ryan Day number 2. I guess you'd say James Franklin would be number 3 because of his recency. At number 4, I'd probably go with, man, it's nobody in the East. It'd have to be Brom at number 4. Yeah, Brom at number 4. At number 5, I would say Ferentz. Number 6, I'd say recency, Fickell, and number 7, I'd say Rhule. Maybe that's the order. That's rough. It could change, but just off the top of my head, I'd probably have Rhule at number 7, Fickell at number 6, just based on recency, all right? I don't think that Fickell would be a great hire for Nebraska right now, but I do think that he's a really good coach regardless. I think Fickell's just a little bit of a risk. I think that Matt Rhule's safer. That's just my opinion. Jay Willie, thank you for the 25. Fickell and Rhule are going to make the West strong again. Tired of hearing weakest division in Power 5. Time for the West to start beating the East. They are going to make the West extremely strong. They're going to make Nebraska and Wisconsin 8 to 12 win teams. I truly believe that Wisconsin with Fickell has a higher ceiling than they had with their last coaching staffs. The only problem is they also have a lower floor. You don't know how the Fickell experiment will go. Is Fickell going to prioritize this whole Ohio recruiting thing that he had prioritized at Cincinnati? Because what he did at Cincinnati was, I'm going to go and get all the players in Ohio who aren't going to Michigan or Ohio State, and I'm going to bring them to Cincy, and we're going to dominate. And it worked. Can he do the same thing at Wisconsin? I don't know. I'm sure he's going to have no problem recruiting at Wisconsin. Honestly, he's a really good coach with a great name, and even though he just has Cincinnati on the resume as a head coach, I do think of him in a better light than I do of Scott Frost when he was coming out of UCF, just because he has more experience. That's pretty much the only reason. And Luke Fickell just feels like a better fit for the Big Ten than Scott Frost did. That's the other reason. Don't Get Me Started says, I have quite a bit more respect for Rhule after hearing him talk about who and what Nebraska is. I think that's important. He understands what this needs to look like. He understands what this rebuild entails. He understands what the final product is. And if you can understand and identify the final product, I think you're going to have more success, right? That's my opinion. We'll see. Judy, everybody in this chat's loving you. We're glad you're here. Birdie says that he's glad Rhule isn't as cringe as PJ. That's true. PJ, he's a really good football coach. I got to give him credit. He's a funny, gimmicky character. I don't think he would fit at Nebraska, honestly. It would be an odd fit at Nebraska. That'd be weird. But Matt Rhule, I think he comes in with a little bit more disciplinarian attitude. He comes in a little bit tighter, like he runs a tight ship. He's the drill sergeant major that Crypto Badger was asking for, so that's my thought. Judy said, I figured out how to super chat, but haven't figured out how to put money where my mouth is. Help. You're hilarious. I'm glad you figured out the super chat part, though, because it helps support our show. Jess says, fact is, we're a losing program under Frost, yet everyone wants to keep 3 or 4 coaches. Have to change culture, and you can't do that keeping every coach from the last staff. That's life, and that's a fact. I am not a supporter of keeping a majority of the coaches. You got to flush it, clean slate, start over. Why would we want to continue on that same energy? Nothing personal to any of those coaches, but we need a fresh slate. We need to get new guys in here who can make these players feel a little bit uncomfortable. There's nothing wrong with feeling uncomfortable. You know what uncomfortable equals? Uncomfortable equals growth. Put pressure, it means you're going to get better, right? Get these new coaches in here, and it'll make these players feel refreshed. That's my honest opinion. You're going to reset their thinking with what this program is going forward. You're not going to have the same things they got away with before, the same things that were acceptable. And the way they looked at their last position coach, they would have said, I could get away with it with him. We're snapping that. We're starting over. It's going to be a hard reset. I think it's great for these players. And I personally think it's great that Matt Rhule understands that, because it doesn't look like he wants to keep very many coaches. Maybe 2. At this rate, I'm guessing 2. I don't know. 1 feels like I'd be getting lucky. I don't know. The architecture grind says your common sense does not fit California. I'll tell you what, it's odd living in California because I don't fit the typical California mold, but I do get along with the California people. I don't know. I think I'm adaptable. I think the other thing is my friend group is very diverse, and because of that, I've got more experience hanging out with them and growing up with them. So I'm not the guy who looks like the guy from the South or the guy who's uncultured or unfit. I think I just think I understand more, so I get along with people here. It's interesting. I'm getting to chat, guys. I'm breathing through everything. We've got a lot in here. We talked about Schumann already as DC. That's a potential. Who knows? I'm not even sure where that came from. I've seen so many rumors. Like I said, guys, I was up till 5 in the morning, or 3 in the morning or 4, working on that Matt Rhule CEO video. Because of that, I wasn't able to watch and go through everything on Twitter today. So, yeah, I'm just a little bit delayed. But I'll get caught up on sleep tonight, and we'll go from there. Another thing that I've seen, Bo says there is some word that Elijah Robinson might be an assistant hire. Would you want that Texas A&M? Oh, would you want that? Texas A&M is a dumpster fire. So the Elijah Robinson coach, I think, is the D-line assistant. I don't know what is it that makes everyone think that he could potentially come to Nebraska. I didn't see anywhere that he had ties to Rhule, or I don't know what the tie is that make people think he'll come. He was a great recruiter at Texas A&M, is my understanding. So any coach who can come here and recruit and be a part of the staff, be a fit, I think would be fantastic. That's just my personal opinion, but I don't know. I'll have to do a little bit more research on him. We'll see. Daniel says Coronation compared O'Brien to oatmeal. O'Brien, yes, is an oatmeal coach. That is one I can say is oatmeal. Matt Rhule is not oatmeal. Matt Rhule is cool. Matt Rhule is, I don't know, when he talks, he gets me excited. Bill O'Brien is, ugh. No, Matt Rhule's not oatmeal, man. People said that. I don't like the oatmeal comment. I don't agree with that. Judy says you put out more on accident than most podcasters do on accident. You're devoted totally to the Huskers. I love that in a man. You love that I'm fully devoted to the Huskers? Judy, I'm so glad you're a big Nebraska fan. I'm so glad we got so many diehards in here. All you guys are diehards. We got 860 people in here on NFL Sunday talking about whatever happened with coaches and things that honestly don't really matter until the announcement tomorrow because it's all speculation. So it's awesome. I love to see it. I'm getting back through chat, guys. There's a lot of them. Simple Jack says, I hope we get Casey Thompson back. You know, I saw something about Matt Rhule's last quarterbacks at Baylor and Temple. And at Baylor and Temple, you know what he did? He took true freshman QBs and he wrote them and he said, screw it. That's what I'm going to build with. That's part of the reason I think he started off so slow. He was willing to play a bunch of freshmen. He was willing to play the new guys who hadn't played before. He said, these are the ones I want to build, the ones I want to mold, the ones I believe in. And because of that, he was able to build them into juniors and seniors who were really talented and good football players because they had so much experience over that 3-4 year period, whatever it was. So my guess is Casey Thompson doesn't come back. Who knows? I would guess they might not even go for a transfer portal QB. If they can get a QB out of the high school recruiting class on signing day, they might ride with him. Again, I have no idea. We'll see. Judy said he had me at Christian. We need God on our side for sure. But we get that with Matt Rhule. I can tell you that. Matt Rhule is a godly man from what I understand. Durka says, it sounds like the strength or the length of the offer was what wasn't acceptable to Rhule. Hence, an 8-year contract was then presented. And that's interesting to me. You've got the portal, you've got NIL and everything else. I get that Matt Rhule is a builder and he needs 3-year runway. I understand. But 8 years feels like a damn long time. Am I wrong? Is 8 years not that, I would expect most coaches today to get 6-year contracts. 6 years sounds fair, especially given the fact that you need to win almost immediately in the new era of college football. Expectations for a 6-win season next year, in my opinion, aren't that high. Come on. If you can't get to 6 wins, I'm going to be very uncomfortable with another 7 years of runway. I'll just say that. Dylan, I already got you. Did you ask me this question? Yeah, you asked me this question, Dylan. Trying to get through chat, guys. Okay, now we're loaded. The Badger, thank you for the 20. Hello, Torres. I don't know if Torres is the right fit for quarterback for Matt Rhule. Matt Rhule likes the dual threat. Is Torres dual threat enough for Matt Rhule's offense? That's going to be probably known more once we have an offensive coordinator. Not sure what the OC situation is looking like. Haven't looked too much into that. But once we do know that answer, we'll have a better idea. It'll be interesting. Thank you for the 20. Caden, thank you for the $2. On my way back to college, had to join the live GBR. Thank you for being here. We love having you. I just talked to you on Instagram, I think. Deputy Goose, thank you for the 5. Rhule wasn't my first choice, but I trust Trev. He's going to do what's best for the university. That's 100% true. I truly believe that Trev has a vision for where he's going to take this program. And we talked about this at the beginning of the stream. His vision for the program is set. He had to get the right coach who could execute to build it into his vision. Trev's vision is not to have a losing football program. I can promise you that. I've said this before and I'll say it again. Trev is one of us. Trev wants to win. Trev hates losing. That was one of the things I noticed. I don't know where I saw it. They said that Trev wanted a coach who hated losing as much as he loves winning. No, hated losing more than he loves winning. Sorry, let me quote that properly. Trev hates losing like we hate losing. Trev is sick to his stomach on the sideline. You can see it in all those losses. I think that Trev's doing the right thing for what he wants and what he believes in, so I'm getting behind it. Like I said in the beginning of this video, I was not 100% on board with the Rhule talk in the beginning. I was not 100% on board with the Rhule hire when it was announced. I'm still not even 100% sold on it today. But what I'm sold on is what we're talking about right here. I'm sold on Trev's vision. I'm sold on him understanding what he needs. And I'm sold on Matt Rhule fitting that mold. So that's all I can ask for. The AD has a vision. He's paid a lot more money than I am. I promise you that. To figure out how to get Nebraska to be great again. Jeff, you said you still think transfer portal should be used for position skills in high school and JUCO for linemen so you can beef them up the right way. I agree with that 1,000%. The only thing is, right now in the immediate, I believe we need to hit the JUCO and portal hard to get any lineman we can. If you don't get linemen, it's going to be hard to win, right? We've seen it this year. We saw it last year and the year before. I mean, it's repeatedly been an issue. Get whatever you can, wherever you can at this point. Let's go out and win now. And if you're going to win now, you got to get the linemen. So I agree with you, but yeah. Brad says the guys on game day said they like the Rhule hire, so Rhule probably won't work out. Is that how it works? The guys on game day don't know what they're talking about? I don't know, man. I truly believe that most media people, I mean, almost all media people, have a good idea of what's going to work out to some degree because they know these coaches, right? Like, and when I say media people, I'm not talking about the random people on Twitter with 50,000 followers. I'm talking about the big names like the Kirk Herbstreits and such. They'll always miss some, but if they're behind somebody who we're not, I don't know. I like to give this person a chance because they know the guy personally. They've done a lot of analysis on him, and a lot of the things that you and I might have missed during his come up because we didn't care about his come up, those media people did watch and they saw the bright spots. So them being high on him made me feel a little bit more comfortable. Thank you for the 5. Don't get me started. Over 850 in this live. More than one out of every 17 subscribers in here. Hit that like button. You're doing a heck of a job as our captain. I'm glad I'm captain of the Corn Crazed Army. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody, for being here. I appreciate you all. Over under on my favorite position, fullback, being a reality. I don't know. I got to watch more film. I don't know that I've ever seen a fullback in a Matt Rhule offense. I still think that the fullback is a dated position and only schools like Wisconsin and Iowa use one, but I would not be opposed to it. At this point, whatever additional help we can get to create a path for a running back is helpful. Tim says, refreshing true commentary. I truly believe Rhule will turn this thing around. Wasn't excited until I saw some of his YouTube speaking videos. That's where I got hooked, honestly. I got into this Football Scoop article, and then I got onto some YouTube clips, and you learn what the guy's about. And when you learn what he's about, you get a lot more confidence in him. Because like I said earlier in this video, football is only so much. The X's and O's is only so much. How does this guy run his program? How does he run his life? How do the kids he coaches come up, and how are they developed? He has a pretty good resume when it comes to sending guys to the NFL. He has a pretty good resume when it comes to recruiting the right players, not the star players, not the best players who have been unattainable at Nebraska for years, but the right players who were under-recruited by some of these other schools because Ohio State doesn't need to recruit a 3-star lineman. They can go out and get the 5-star. But at Nebraska, when you go and find the 3-star, how do we find the right one who fits, who has the highest upside, who can be developed? That's what Matt Rhule's known for. That's what Matt Rhule's good at. I really encourage you guys to look into some of these articles. Just type in Matt Rhule online. Type in Matt Rhule conferences, Matt Rhule coaching philosophy. Get into the weeds a little bit. Different things pop up. I'll try to find things and post them for you so you can look into them. but he has some analytical things he does in recruiting that is honestly impressive, I would say. He finds players who fit perfectly, even though they're guys you wouldn't think could be Division I players. But he knows how to find the right balance of size, speed, length, and everything else. Some of the things that Scott Frost and this staff were trying to do, they just, for some reason, weren't developing them the right way. And more importantly, they weren't giving them the proper support up front. The skill players were all pretty fantastic athletes. The lines, however, either weren't developed or just weren't the right guys who fit in. And then the skill players were impacted by that. They didn't have as good of careers here because of that. Cornhusker Corner, thank you for the $2 and thank you for being a member. Wisconsin, wasted guy at the bar that shoots a bullseye. Really? I mean, Wisconsin's a pretty solid program. Was that just a good luck shot? I think Wisconsin actually knew exactly what they were looking for. They knew that Jim Leonard wasn't going to be their head coach after these last couple weeks. And they said, we're going to make a strategic play on Luke Fickell. I don't know if that's just a drunk shot and they got lucky. I think they were pretty strategic and smart in that. That's just my opinion. Thank you for the 5. Wisconsin's AD was so bad during their search, firing a 9-win guy, giving Leonard hope, not posting the job till last week. Mind-blowing that they landed at Fickell. So look, I think they've been talking to Fickell. I think that it's BS that there's this narrative that they just, out of nowhere, hired Fickell today, or yesterday. The talks just started. I'm sure they called Fickell 2 weeks ago, or a week and a half ago at the very least, and started to figure some things out. They knew Jim Leonard wasn't going to be the guy, and they weren't going to say, we're going to let it ride on the Wisconsin-Minnesota game. And if Wisconsin can win that game at home, Jim Leonard's the guy. And if they can't, he's flushed. We're going after a coach, big name, like a Luke Fickell. I can't believe that to be true. So I think they were a little more calculated, like I said. But either way, they fired a guy who I think didn't really want to be their head coach, wasn't really fit for this new era of college football. They want to go in a new direction. And they found a guy who I believe is going to be a huge success at Wisconsin. It's just my guess, but I think he has a lot of upside. And I think Wisconsin has a lot of potential. Again, just my guess. Nothing is certain. We just have no clue. The Badger tipped me 20, and he said, hello, Torres. I'm not sure if I responded to this earlier, so let's get to it now. Oh, we did talk about Torres earlier, actually. Yeah, I just don't know that Torres is going to be the right fit. I don't know if he's going to fit the offense. I don't know what the offense is going to look like. If they want a gunslinger, hello, Torres. If they want a dual-threat quarterback like P.J. Walker over at the Carolina Panthers and who was Rhule'S quarterback at Temple, then maybe Pop Watson, who's a recruit right now in this class and committed to Mark Whipple and Mickey Joseph. Who knows? It's gonna be known pretty soon here, though. I think in the next couple weeks, as we get this next coordinator in, and as we start to look at the portal and recruiting and everything else. One player who entered the portal today is Jeff Sims, the quarterback at Georgia Tech. Dual threat, hasn't had much success there. To be fair, Jeff Collins didn't really turn Georgia Tech around, and he obviously got fired this year. So Jeff Sims is now in the portal. Jeff Sims looks a little bit like a Baylor quarterback. If I'm being honest, just a name to think about, depending on who this OC is. Jeff Sims was a 4-star out of high school, a lot of potential, really freaking fast. Arm, decent, but we'll see. Who knows? Not sure. Phil says, I'll take Fickell over Rhule all day and twice on Sunday. Hey, I hear you. I understand. For Nebraska, I wouldn't, because we already had our Fickell. Our Fickell was Scott Frost, and our Fickell did not work out. Do I want to run it back? No, sir. I do not. Fickell's upside over Scott Frost, however, was defensive-minded, Ohio State coach, national champion, defensive coordinator. That upside is, I'd say, significantly better than what Scott Frost brought to the table back in 2017. But I still do think it's a riskier run in hiring a coach from Cincinnati. However, like I said multiple times, I think he's going to work out just fine at Wisconsin, but I do think that we have a good fit here. So I'm happy about it. Brad says they're going to change their entire identity with this hire. They're going to turn into a faster football team, I think. Are they going to change their entire identity? On defense, maybe they stick to the same, okay? On offense, though, yeah, they're going to have a quarterback who can throw it, who's mobile. They're going to have a really good running game. I don't know that they're going to go as hard at the line of scrimmage and just say we're going to pound the ball over and over. That's probably not going to happen. That's not Luke Fickell's offense, at least in the past. But that change could potentially vault them. That change could potentially take Wisconsin to new highs, to look more like an Ohio State, more like a Michigan. And if you look like an Ohio State or a Michigan, and if you can execute at that level with that level of an athlete, you're pretty freaking dangerous, if you ask me. Is there anything wrong with that? I don't know. You tell me. Public's Eye Outdoors said, do you think Will Watson will be a fit for this coaching staff? I do. We just talked about that about 2 minutes ago. I think he'll be a fit, but I don't know who the OC is yet. Don't know what the offense is going to look like yet, so who knows? And Birdie, yes, I think that Fickell will work in the Big Ten. He's already been successful as a DC in the Big Ten. There's nothing showing that he wouldn't be. It'll be a different landscape for him, though, for sure, as a head coach in the Big Ten. So I think he'll be successful. Do I know he'll be successful? Nothing's for sure. CJ says, Rhule's the answer. You all have the same happiness with Frosty the Clown, so I'm not getting excited yet until I see him win 7 or more games next year. If not, we stuck in the mud. CJ's been a critic of Scott Frost for a while. Matt Rhule is the opposite of Scott Frost. Matt Rhule brings something different to the table. Like I said, he brings structure. He's a CEO. He's not an X and O guy. An X and O guy is a different type of coach. Just a fact. What's interesting is Mickey Joseph isn't an X and O guy either. Mickey Joseph is more of a leader, more of a recruiter, more of a builder. So Mickey Joseph has the makings of a head coach. Something to think about. Not yet, but something to think about. Tyler says there are a lot of mad Wisconsin players on Twitter. Wisconsin, I think, is going to be just fine. I don't know how many of those players are going to leave. I'm sure 3, 4, maybe 5 will. I don't know how many of those are starters, but a few guys are going to leave because that's just what happens. And we're going to have some guys leave Nebraska over the Mickey Joseph situation. If Mickey Joseph doesn't get hired, there will be a little bit of an exodus. I can promise you that. Players are dialed into their coaches in 2022, 2023. They love and they get behind these coaches to a crazy degree. Like, the school does not matter. It's all about the head coach or the assistant who brought him in. That's literally it. Trey Palmer went from LSU to Nebraska. Why? Because of a coach. Fedoni's fine by now. He medically redshirted. I've talked to some people. My understanding is Fedoni might not be back next year. Fedoni needs a fresh start. Fedoni has been injured here. He hasn't gotten any chances. I would love for him to get his first chance next year. But it looked like, to me, Fedoni was unhappy that he didn't get to play. It looked like he was unhappy that Mickey Joseph wouldn't let him get back in when he felt like he was healthy and good to go. I think Fedoni was healthy kind of mid-October, late October. So he could have played all end of October and November. And he didn't get to. On top of that, I don't think he has very many NIL deals. And if he doesn't have very many NIL deals and he wants to make more NIL money, then he might leave because he feels like he got wronged here. Expect a fresh start. That's just the way I'm looking at it. We loved Fedoni, but yeah, I think the odds are long that we keep him. Going for gold, thank you for the 5. In my honest opinion, I think Fickell's a better coach, but Rhule is the better fit, hire for what we need. I could be wrong, but that's the way I see it. I agree with you. I said that in the beginning of this video. Rhule is the right fit for what Nebraska's trying to build now. Rhule is the right fit for Trev Albert's vision, and because of that, because he's a builder, it makes sense. Luke Fickell coming in would make sense if Nebraska was flying a little bit higher, wasn't in as much of a rebuild position. I think there's a lot more coaches who are better at taking over thriving programs than there are coaches who can build programs from ground zero. I think building from ground zero it's a tough ask if you're asking me. So, just a thought. Parker says, you're great. You're great. Love listening to these. Really know what's going on. Hey, I'm glad we can get into the details because I like to make sure you guys are as aware, or you guys are understanding as much as I am, because I know it's hard to keep up with all this news. There's a lot of stuff on Twitter, a lot of stuff reported by the media, And it's hard to filter through everything and know what's true. So I try and do as much research as I can, find and source the best info, and then fire it off to you guys. So you don't have to spend all this time I do going through all these, BS stories that may or may not be true. Just find the hard-hitting stuff and get it straight out. So I'm glad that this channel can be that for you, Parker. Ray says, with Huskers going to Colorado next fall, hoping Rhule understands that rivalry. So Rhule is a 49-year-old coach, which means he was playing in the late 90s. Yeah, I think we said around Scott Frost. He would be playing in the late 90s. He understands the Colorado-Nebraska rivalry. And what'll be interesting is, who is Colorado's head coach going to be? Colorado is down worse than Nebraska. And if Colorado beats Nebraska next year, and that's the start to the Matt Rhule era, unacceptable. That would be painful. If it was a coach like, I don't know, Deion Sanders, and he beat Nebraska in Rhule's first big-time test, painful. I'll tell you that. Tom says Wisconsin lost a big offensive lineman recruit to Notre Dame today, but I guess that was close to done before Fickell announced. I think that Wisconsin's going to be just fine with Fickell. He's going to have just fine recruiting classes. That guy's coming off a playoff 1 year removed. Last year, Fickell was in the playoff with Cincinnati. Imagine what Scott Frost did. Or, not imagine. Remember what Scott Frost did when he came off his championship season at Central Florida. What do you think Fickell can do? I mean, come on. Wisconsin's going to be just fine. Daniel says, I think Prime would be a great fit for Colorado. I think so too. He'd be awesome there. I'm not sure that he'll take it, but it'd be fun to watch. And it'd be good because we don't play Colorado every year, so I wouldn't feel bad that we didn't have Deion Sanders. It's so crazy as a Nebraska fan, right? There are so many coaches I want to experience. I want to try Deion out for a year. I want to try Matt Rhule out for a year. I want to see what Luke Fickell could do. I'd love to see Chris Kleiman or Lance Leipold bring their offenses here. You don't get it all. You only get one. It sucks. But it would be fun. It'd be fun to see. Chris says, will we keep Casey Thompson? That's up to Casey Thompson. I don't see it, but very well could. He fits the mold for RPO. I don't see it. I think that based on Rhule's history, he's going to go for a different type of quarterback, probably a younger quarterback. Jose says, so far, Fedoni and Yant look like they are transferring. I would say that's true. I would say I agree with both of those things. Chris says, do you think Rhule will stay the full 8 years? That is an interesting question. I'm not sure if there's a job he would leave for. Would he potentially leave for Penn State because that's his alma mater? He very well could. Is he going back to the NFL? No. So that's off the table. He already took a shot there. Rhule to me at Nebraska seems like a fit that would last. Culturally, it makes sense. The Big Ten Conference makes sense for his style. Where would he go? What job? I mean, if he had an 11, 12-win season and Michigan wanted him, I guess. But I'm confident that Nebraska is a destination school, and a guy like Matt Rhule would stay here unless it was maybe Penn State. One of the things I mentioned the other day in a live, I talked about the Matt Rhule hire being a good hire, not being a great hire, not being a bad hire, being a good hire, because Matt Rhule is going to bring what Nebraska needs now. Nebraska doesn't need to win a national championship now. Nebraska doesn't even need to win a Big Ten championship now. Nebraska needs to get back to winning games, 7, 8, 9 specifically, right out the gate, winning bowl games, giving us hope, making it so that Nebraska isn't the dumpster fire that the rest of college football knows it to be. And if we can get back to that, if we can get back to the basics, Nebraska's going to be just fine. And from there, we can start talking about, hey, is this guy better than 9 wins? Are we in for another Bo Pelini? Look, I would love to have a Bo Pelini season next year. Love it! Because I just want to get back to winning games, being entertained, having decent recruiting, and getting to bowl games. And then from there, we can say, okay, Matt Rhule, the time is now. Are you going to improve on this staff? Are you going to make the necessary changes to get us to a national championship? Or is it time for you to get the hell out? Listen, we're far away from that conversation. We're far away from having to worry about Matt Rhule winning championships. We're far away from having to worry about him going anywhere else. He just accepted a job at a school that destroys head coaches. The school where coaches go to die. That's why he needed $72 million for 9 years. This is his last job ever if things don't work out. Sarcasm, of course. He'll end up at Central Michigan. But the point is this. I'm not worried because I think we just got to get back to the winning games right now. Get back to the 7, 8, 9. And then when we pass that, or when we get to that and we look towards the future and we say we need to win some championships, we can reevaluate who our head coach is and who that staff is. But right now, let's just worry about the basics. And Matt Rhule gives us a fantastic chance at getting back to 7, 8, 9 wins. I can tell you that based on the way that his resume looks, based on the things he says and preaches, based on the way that Trev is going to make sure this program is run. So I think this is the right fit, and we're chilling. He's not going to go anywhere anytime soon. Public's Eye Outdoors, thank you for the $5. Looking for your comment. I don't see one, but I will look and see if it pops up. Jose says, is Coleman staying? Coleman is staying with the assumption that Mickey Joseph is here. If Mickey Joseph leaves, I don't know the answer to that. Coleman, however, did put something on Twitter that was positive, and it sounded like he was in favor of Matt Rhule. He was excited for the Matt Rhule hire announcement. So, yeah, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see who stays. Daniel says if Rhule does what we want him to, he will leave. So, go where? What are the schools that Nebraska can get poached from? Ohio State, USC, Penn State in terms of Rhule. What? Alabama, LSU. How many schools are there realistically that are going to poach Matt Rhule? And what are the chances that they need to get Matt Rhule? Most of those schools are going to be able to find great coaches and not have to go that route. He could leave, I guess. I'm not going to argue that, but no, I'm not too worried about that, like I said before. LJ says Casey with an O-line is recognized nationally. Yeah, Casey hasn't had an O-line at Texas or at Nebraska. It would be amazing to see him with one, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know if we'll ever see that. I don't know if he'll play in the NFL. I don't know what the situation is, so. Jose says Rhule has a clause in his contract for Penn State if the opportunity presents itself. Is that just something you're making up, Jose? Or I'm confused. Is that a joke? Judy says $72 million. I have my shoes on. How much is that per year? I don't know what your shoes got to do with the simple calculation, but per year, Judy, that is $9 million. I gotta take a breath. Is Matt Rhule worth $9 million a year? I don't see it. Some things just don't add up. Is Matt Rhule worth $7 million a year? Yes, I'll give you $7 million a year. Is Matt Rhule worth $60 million over 8 years? Sure, $60 million, 8 years, a little bit above 7 a year. Fine, I understand it. But $72 million? For what? Matt Rhule is a good coach. Good versus great, right? To me, great is $9 million. Now, inflation's going crazy. We're in a recession. He needs money for Christmas presents for his kids, so I get it. $9 million should be reserved for, to me, the top coaches in the country. The unattainables. Matt Rule is attainable. The unattainables include Dabo Swinney, Nick Saban, Brian Kelly, Lincoln Riley, Ryan Day, Jim Harbaugh. Who else is an unattainable right now? There's not that many amazing coaches in college football. It's hard to win every week. Sounds like a lot of money to me, man. If I was going to make the offer and a coach said, hey, look, I need $72 million, I'd say, yeah, I need 3 more top 25 wins and then check back in. Something like that, right? Let's negotiate the right way. It's a lot of money. The problem with the amount of money isn't that you or I are paying for it. Nebraska taxes aren't paying for it. None of that BS you'll hear about kids and their tuition paying for it. It's all a freaking lie. You know who's paying for it? You and me with our eyes watching these games every week. Michigan and Ohio State, I believe, don't quote me, screw that, quote me. They had 17 million viewers watch that game. It was the highest viewed college football game of this season. What did they say, ever? Might have been the highest viewed college football game ever, something like that. The media rights deal is paying that $72 million. It's a $1 billion media rights deal. There's a reason these coaches get so much damn money. It's crazy. But regardless, I'm trying to find the words. I'm trying to justify it. I don't see them. I'm looking into the stars right now. I don't see the dots connecting. But hey, I get it. That's the market. The market says the best coaches in 2 years from now are going to be making $13, $14 million a year. So he has to protect himself against that. He has to make sure that he's getting the amount as inflation goes and as these coaching contracts go up. It's hard to wrap your head around, I know. It feels like if you're going to go and pay that kind of money, you better get Dabo. You better get Lincoln Riley. You better get a for sure. I don't know. Interesting. Brandon says if we have to break this $9 million a year contract, Trev will be closing Memorial and beefing up a hockey team. Hilarious. You're right. We're going to be in the same boat as Texas A&M, and we'll be calling every donor with a farm and saying, hey, we need you to buck up and pay this off. Jason, here we go. I like this comment, Jason. Thanks for being here, Ohio State fan. Nebraska fans need to stop thinking they aren't a destination school. They are. Nebraska is a blue blood team in school. Come on, Nebraska fans. Start acting like it. Jason, here's my question to you as an outsider. Because I've heard it both ways. Some people say, as outsiders, not Nebraska fans, that Nebraska fans expect too much because of our recent history. You're now saying the opposite. I do act like Nebraska's a blue blood. I do believe that Nebraska's a destination school. I do believe we're a top 12-ish job in the country, 1,000%. But I also am realistic, and I understand the task at hand. Things have been bleak. Things have been dark. The lights have not been on for a while. Could you imagine Ryan Day coming to a place like Nebraska right now? I could see it if Nebraska was coming off Bo Pelini years, or in a circumstance where Nebraska was thriving. But right now, it's hard because, like I said before, this is the place coaches go to die. I don't know, man. But thank you. Thanks, Jason, for the positivity. We need it over here as much as any other program in the country. Jim says, please stop putting Ryan Day in the elite group. He is not clear up there. Good recruiter, but not an elite. Yeah, as of yesterday, I have to remove his name from there. So thank you, Jim. I apologize for putting Ryan Day in the elite category. He is a good coach. He is not an elite coach. He has fallen off quite a bit. Daniel says we're paying for that contract with our blood pressure. That's a fact. Brad says we're a little traumatized at the moment. That's why we're not looking at ourselves as highly as we should be. Joe said Ryan Day didn't beat Michigan, so they should fire him. Brendan says he's just jumped in. He wants to know my thoughts on the length of the contract. I think it's a long contract, and I'm not a fan. I think it was too big of a contract. My ideal and my thoughts on what it would look like is probably a 6 or 7 year for max $7 million a year. So it would have been closer to a 40 or $50 million contract as opposed to $72 million contract, which would essentially buy you 2 extra years or save you 2 extra years in case things didn't work out. It's a lot. I did a full reaction in the beginning, I think, somewhere in here. I've got a lot of content today. I've been on here for an hour and 26 minutes talking about a ton of stuff. So if you guys came and joined the party late, when I post this up after we're done, you'll be able to scroll through the entire video and watch it. But yeah, I don't remember what part of the video it was in. Husker Grace says, just because it's a long contract means nothing. He can leave at any time. Yeah, he can leave at any time, but we can't get rid of him at any time. That's the important part. He leaving isn't something I'm worried about. It's having to keep him if things hit, or if shit hits the fan. If Nebraska's down bad, we're not winning, and we're in a Jimbo Fisher situation, and we can't get rid of him without paying $40 million like the Panthers were supposed to, then I'm going to say, what were we thinking, brother? What were we thinking about this 8-year deal? Well, guys, we got one more. William says, what do you think of the run-pass option under Matt Rhule? Could it work at Nebraska? Yes, it could for sure work at Nebraska. It works at a lot of places. Again, we have to watch and see what offensive coordinator comes in. I think that's going to tell us what the offense is going to look like. Until then, I have no idea. It's hard. We got to see these coordinators. We'll know more tomorrow. Let's talk recruiting. There's some big-time talent left on the board that Nebraska can pick up. Game changers out here. Dude, Nebraska's in position to have a really good recruiting class. You got to think, these players are being sold this vision, right? They're being sold, come to Nebraska, play immediately. We're going to be stripped of a lot of talent. Most of the guys who are going to be on this roster are going to be, or not most, but a lot of the guys who are going to be on this roster, specifically on the depth chart, are going to be upperclassmen, which means you get to play relatively soon if you come here. That's a huge selling point, and you've got NIL on top of it. I think we have a really good chance. We'll see. Let's see. The first interview that Rhule did was talking about the offensive line. Thank God. Ray says, good conversation. Appreciate everyone's insight here. I think what makes these live streams so good is it's not just about me talking. It's that this is a community where we're all engaged, where we're all having conversation. The chat is really knowledgeable. I think that's one thing we talked about in the stream the other day. Corn Crazed is for corn psychopaths. It's for people who are obsessed with Nebraska football, people who have a really good understanding of it, people who are well researched, people who've done their research essentially on not only Nebraska, but on other schools around the country. And because of that, we have a really insightful chat, which makes it fun and engaging. We don't have a bunch of trolls and people who are dumb saying stuff to offend people. I mean, it's generally a pretty positive community. So yeah, the Corn Craze community is fantastic. Another thing I want to plug here, we've got a live stream on Tuesday night. I'm probably going to go live tomorrow too, but we're for sure going live Tuesday night. It's going to be a call-in show with John Johnston from Corn Nation. If you've ever been a part of the call-in shows, they're a good time. All you do is get in the Discord. The link is in the description below. When you join the Discord, there's a side where it says some things, and I'll explain it on the live call-in show. Ignore all that. Just join the Discord, and then that's a giant group community of Corn Craze members where we all talk to each other, so it's fun. Join the Discord, and on Tuesday night, you can call in to talk with me live on the stream and talk to John Johnston. We'll get to hear what he thinks, and we'll talk about, more news because we'll have a lot more knowledge by Tuesday than we do now. So that'll be great. Tom says, question is the bigger games, but he won't be a disaster. I feel pretty confident saying that. Yeah, I'm not too concerned about that bigger game thing, that top 25 wins thing. Initially, yeah, it's going to be hard to beat top 25 teams, of course. But as we build and as we become a better team, he went toe-to-toe with playoff Oklahoma and lost in overtime and then lost by 3 a separate time. He did get smacked by Kirby Smart at Georgia in the Sugar Bowl, but Baylor wasn't at anywhere near that level yet. He was in year 3, Kirby was at year 4, so just a thought. Woogie says, good chance Rhule keeps Bill Bush and Mickey Joseph. Honestly, I think there's a good chance he keeps one, not both. But I don't know. All right, guys. Well, we've been on here for an hour and a half. I think we're going to get out. I think it's been a long chat. It's been long for me. I'm super tired. I won more money today on Bro Throw, which was fantastic. I bet some NFL games. I'm really excited for next week with the bets on the championship games. So we do have one more week of college football before we get into bowl season. I hope you guys are enjoying it because even though we suck, there's a lot of other good football to be watched out there. And I love watching every single one of these games. I'll be doing live streams all off season. Not all off season, but for sure all December, which will be good. And yeah, we've got some time to talk more about football and talk about this rebuild and these new coaches and these new players and everything else. So good times ahead. Tomorrow, after the press conference, we'll have some more to talk about. I'll either make a video or go live. I'll let you guys know early on in the afternoon. And we'll go from there. Tuesday night, live stream, John Johnston, call-in show. Be there. It's going to be fun. Until next time, thank you, everyone, for tapping in. I had a great time tonight. And I will see you in the next one. Go Big Red.